There it goes. I'm back. Dropped again. I don't know why that is. I'm gonna have to figure it out. Do a little bit more research and maybe try to use a different camera for doing this or something. I suspect that maybe I'm dropping from my internet and that might be what's happening, but anyhow, we're back live again. And when I was so rudely interrupted and getting cut off, I was doing my masking here on a different print, and I've got the other one drying. Going to be ready to coat it pretty soon. Ready to expose, not coat. Yeah, if there's anybody out there watching that might have an idea, I mean, I know, I've been using it quite a lot, and, I realize, the basics that I need to do here, but for some reason, it keeps cutting out, and I don't know why that is. And for doing these different live things I do, I'd like to figure it out so it's not so annoying to you watching it as well. These strips of paper that I use are, just regular old laser printer paper that I cut into strips on a paper cutter. I used to use this stuff. I've got a one roll left. They've discontinued making this, but this stuff called Clean Edge. If anybody out there's got a case of these they want to send me, I'd love them. And this is basically, it has adhesive on one part in here, and you can mask off your prints a lot easier without doing the second step of the extra mask from the paper that I use. But the problem being is they quit making it. Apparently, whoever made the adhesive for them quit making the adhesive and they had to discontinue them. So it's my one roll that's worth gold to me. I don't know if I'll ever end up using it. All right, so I got that one masked off. And I'm going to take and I'm going to use the same pigment and gum here that I used on the other print. And what I'm doing with this is, with this process, the longer you expose the gum layers, the more it works itself into the highlights. Meaning that, the darker areas of the negative, of course. So when you're making your images, then you can, when you're making your images, you can then, if you want to get some color into the highlight, you expose for a longer time, and then you want to cover that up with a slightly darker color. And you can put that into the shadow details by exposing less time. And that's what I'm going to be doing here. There we go. Ooh, that's nice. So on this one, I'm going to be throwing the color more into the shadow details in the water and in the dock and in the lighting structure that's up on the dock there. All right. So I got a nice even coating, nice mask on it. Put that down on my drying rack and come back over here and see if I can see anybody in here. Yeah. Looks like I lost everybody when I switched over, but that's okay. I'm going to keep on going, see if I can still figure out what's wrong here. And here I've got my sizing now. You can see where it's clearing quite a bit more from the bottom. So I'm getting almost ready to go. I'm actually going to stir this a little bit more. Hi Kurt, how you doing? I know this is all boring to you, isn't it? Spring's coming, we can go walking soon. Excuse me. Stern rod here. And let's check on this print. Not quite ready yet. As a matter of fact, this is what's dangerous, is if I leave prints around that I've got sized and they're already coated, but I'm not quite thinking they're finished yet. I've been adding little bits here and there of other colors, and I'm thinking that this color might be a nice one to add to this one. This is an image that I shot back in Iceland this year. It's a really tragic event that we came upon where like 51 pilot whales were beaching themselves. And, you know, strong waves, and, you know, there's just not any way to stop them, and it was really pretty upsetting. But I made this image, and I really like this image, and I just haven't really figured out what to do with it yet, so hey, I'm going to add another layer. Why not? So I'm going to mask this one off as well, and hopefully we're still alive. Looks like we are. Put the secondary mask on this. Go. All right, this one's ready to coat. I've still got my pigment here mixed up. And, you know, the sponge holds a bit of pigment, so you can usually get a few prints out of each one. And it's good because this one I want to put a little less color into than the other one, so I'm not going to go with as thick a coat. But who am I fooling? It looks just about the same. Wonderful, nice. Looks good. Nice coating. Now you can see on all of these, even though I put some red pigment in this, they look kind of real orange. And that's because the dichromate that you mix up, the 30% dichromate, is quite orange in its coloring. And what happens is when you finally expose the image and then you do your development, which is just basically soaking it in like lukewarm water, the very first thing to come out of it is the dichromate. So it kind of looks yellowish orange when it's coming out. And that's when you actually start to see the pigment that you've added into the gum, is when the dichromate washes out. So anyway, there we go. Nicely coated, ready to go. I'm going to put that down here to dry as well. Now I'm going to go back to the first print, which is now feeling dry to the touch and ready to expose my next layer. So what I'm going to do is take this over to the light table, put it on the light table, and take the original negative and re-register it with this print. So let me get the negative here. Here it is. Ooh, already in the contact printing frame. frame here. So this is the negative here, and you can see I've masked the negative as well with Ruby Lith, and that way, even though I've masked off the print, this helps with extra masking, and that way it kind of still helps keep my clean edge. Although sometimes I still do get a little bit of bleed over. Somebody else in here? Hey Steven, you're back. Yeah, sorry about that. Obviously I still haven't rectified whatever the problem is here. So all I can say is if you lose me again, I'm probably gonna hop back on. So, I turn on the light table, and this light table is just an old fluorescent light table. It's not really putting out much UV, so I don't mind having a print on here very long. It's not going to fog me. But it really helps in helping to re-register the negative. So I'll get that re-registered there. And that's just about right. Now sometimes I like to have it just a little bit off because it adds a little extra to the edges of things and a little bit more depth, a little more illusion of depth. So there, we're registered on there, ready to go. I put a little tape on each side of it to hold it in place until I get in the contact printing frame. Into the frame it goes. And I'm going to put this in the plate burner over here for about 5 minutes. The original exposure in palladium was 9 minutes. And then when I put the color on there, the very first one, that lighter yellowish color that I like to go in the highlights, I did about the same exposure. So now I'm going to go about 5. And what will happen is it will register and only print in the shadow areas more. And when I wash it out, it'll wash out more in the highlight areas, but it'll stay kind of in the shadow areas. And although it won't be red or anything like that, it'll give a little bit of warmth to those shadows. So anyway, let's put this in here. I'm gonna go for 5 minutes. Set my plate burner at 5. Make sure my bulbs are all on. Now, this burner that I have here, this is just there's 12 2-foot black light bulbs. They're not black light like you would think, like they don't look black. They're BLBs. They look like white, but they're actually a real strong UV light. And I order them at 1000bulbs.com online. But anyway, this unit has, so then there's 2 ballasts for each pair. So there's 12 in there. So I have 6 ballasts in there. And the way that this is built is the ballasts are all mounted up in here, up in the top, and then the bulbs are down below it, shining down. And when I put my plate or my contact printer in there, the bulbs are up about a little bit more than 2 inches from the surface of the print. And I try to get the spacing as close as I can. They're spaced about 1 inch apart, but there's enough light bouncing around in there that they don't, there's no lines on the prints because of the bulbs or anything like that. A lot of people now are using LEDs, and I've practiced with that a little bit. I've got a little LED grow light that I bought that I was doing some experimenting with, and it's really quite good. The only thing I don't have, I was getting like 2-minute exposures. Even some people like John Cone Editions have been building LED plate burners, and they're boasting a 60-second exposure time. I'm not really sure about that. Right now on this one, I get 9 minutes. On my platinum and palladium, 60 seconds would be really nice, but I don't really think I need that. But this other one that I've tested, I was getting about 3-minute exposures. Problem being is that I have to build some sort of a housing for it, and I haven't gotten around to that yet. So when it works, what's not broke, don't fix, that kind of thing, whatever it is. So a couple more minutes on that one. While that's happening, I think I am going to, my sizing's ready to go here. So as you can see, it's nice and clear now. Real nice, looks like, well, you know what it looks like. Straw colored. And this is ready to rock. So what I'm going to do is take it off the hot plate right now and let it sit here. And what I do is I mix that with a little bit of formaldehyde. In here I've got a little eyedropper with some formaldehyde in here. And so what I'll do is I'll mix out a few milliliters, and I think it's like for every 10 milliliters I put 1 drop in. And usually takes about 10-20 milliliters to cover a print. So what I do is I'll pour out a little beaker of the sizing, and then I'll put a little bit of the hardener in there, the formaldehyde, and then I'll take a coating rod, and while the print is flat, I'm going to wipe it out. I also have a video on this that you can see. Just look up in my most recent one, and it's a playlist, I think, in Platinum, Gum Over Platinum. And so anyway, I'll show that. Maybe I'll take the camera off here and take you over and show you. But right now I'm going to grab my beaker. Let's see, I'll take the camera. Hopefully I won't lose you here if I do this. Now I feel the camera is warming up, so maybe that's the reason it's shutting off, is it gets too warm and it needs to shut off. But anyway, so let's set this down here. Yeah, I think you can see. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to put down some paper towel here. This is what I usually do at first, just to catch the sizing after it comes off the print. And then I'm going to take the print that I'm sizing here, bring it over here, set it down. Yeah, look at that, you can see it. So I take my sizing and I mix out a little bit in the beaker, and then I'm going to take 3 drops, I think, of formaldehyde in there. Keep your formaldehyde covered just because of the fumes. All right, there. I'm going to get my coating rod. Now this is a coating rod. It's basically a tube of acrylic. Put on another piece. And what I can do is I can draw this across the paper once I've put the puddle down on here. So I'm going to show you. Here we go. We're going to pour it down on there. And then what I'm going to do is very slowly just drag that puddle across the paper, across the print. And then what I like to do sometimes is come back and make sure that it goes out to the edges of the print. I like to size my whole sheet rather than just the print. Some people will just do the print. But in the end, you can see the sizing. There we go. All right. So that's all coated and ready to go. I'm going to put this over on my drawing cabinet. I'll take you over here with me. Let's get this on the cabinet. I'm going to set you up over here. Yeah, I can feel that's getting real warm, so maybe that's part of the problem with it cutting off. Maybe I have to blow a fan on it when we're doing this. Let's see. Not even sure if there's anybody out there. It looks like somebody's watching. Okay, so I've got that set up. I'm going to do another print here that I've got, the same print that I'm just going to size real quick. I'm going to turn my back on you, but I'm going to do it before this hardens and I need to clear it out. A little bit more formaldehyde, mix it up, and then I'm dragging it across the paper again and coating that. Now what this does in resizing the paper, what you're doing is you're sealing the paper and protecting it again. And after you've printed your palladium layer or cyanotype layer or whatever you want in that first layer where you don't coat the paper and you just use the original paper sizing, you resize it, because when you get on there with the dichromate and the pigment, it can be quite staining, and the dichromate in particular. So by sizing the paper and sealing it with the gelatin, you're kind of protecting it and it's not absorbing the dichromate in. It's more laying things on the surface now. Whereas the palladium coating or a cyanotype coating or Van Dyke brown or whatever you're using actually soaks into the paper. The dichromate actually lays on top of the gum bichromate actually lays on top of the paper and on top of the sizing that you place there. So that's why we're resizing things. Yeah, so let me rinse this off and let's see. I'll get fancy and turn you around to the sink here so you can see where I'm working. And I'm going to run a little water. Bring the coating rod and my beaker over here and rinse them out. By now you can start feeling the gelatin starting to harden in there. It gets kind of gooey. I'll put that up there to dry. That's why you want to wash all your stuff down real good afterward. All right, Clean that off, put it over here. Once again on my rack. All right, that's drying. All right, let's turn you back around here. There we go. So that's kind of that for now. While this is still exposed. Oh, that's off now. So we're ready to, actually, I'm going to turn you back around over here. So what I do now, this is exposed, and I am going to take it out of the frame and take the negative off. And as you can see, there's really no change to it. It's not like when you're platinum and palladium printing or doing any kind of printing out where you can start to see a latent image. There's nothing really changes with this. So I'm going to take this over here and let's see, let's turn you around so you can see what's going on here by the sink. Yeah, there we go. That's pretty good. And what I'm going to do is just in a kind of a lukewarm bath, which I've got set here, I'm going to put this print in there in a second. Let me get it in there. Still alive? Yep. Now the first bath just basically washes out dissolves out and washes out the small amount of dichromate that's in there. So, and it starts to turn yellow. We'll see if you can, let me grab this and see if I can let you see that. Yeah, you might be getting something there. I'm not really sure. So you start to get some peeling here or not peeling, but you start seeing the yellow coming off there. And at this point you want to keep your fingers out of there and wear gloves. But yeah, so you can start to see just the color now. Now I'm going to take that. You can still see some of the yellow coming off. So I'm going to drop that back in there. That's the dichromate coming off. And what I'm going to do now is just transfer it over here to another bath. And in this bath, I'm just going to let it soak for a while and let you can still see there's color up in the highlights. That'll come out of there, and I'm going to let it soak for a little bit. So let's see. Let's take you back up over here. It'd be great if I had somebody working camera in here for me, but this is the way it goes for now. Let's get this down here. Nice, there we go. So that's happening, and while that is happening, I am going to check on the other prints that are, yeah, this is my sized one, so it's getting close to being dry with the sizing, but I'm going to let that go for a little while. I probably won't share that with you. But let's go here with, that one's not ready yet. Let's go with, I gotta wait a little bit on this one as well. Let's not get ahead of myself here. I will rinse this down in a minute once I get this print out of the development. So anyway, let's be patient here. I've turned this off. All right. Now I've also got a little bit of the mixture that I did with the gum and the dichromate here, and that I didn't use yet, so I'm just going to seal that up. Oop, I dripped a little bit there. You want to be careful. Oh, I almost got a print. Seal that back up. You can use it again. It is light sensitive now, but it's sealed up and it's not that sensitive. I mean, the light in here is pretty dim and doesn't have much UV in it. Let's set this back over here on the light table. I'm going to go over here and let's check on this print. Here we are. You can see there's still a little bit of yellow coming out of it. Now, one thing you can see here is that some of that pigment and the coloring is coming out of the highlights now, but it's still looking quite red. That'll drop off more. I'm going to let it soak for a while. I mean, basically, I could just soak it in hot water and wash all of the gum out of it, but I don't want to do that. It's developing quite well, so I'm just going to get it back here. Now, another thing that you can do sometimes is to speed things up by using a brush, and I've got a couple different brushes that I use. And what I'll do is just get the brush wet in areas where I want to get the gum out of. I'll just hurry it up a little bit and give it a little bit of brushing. You know, you could do a little bit of that kind of stuff. But if you're patient, it should work the way as intended, and it'll wash out of there. I'm just going to have to leave it a while. It's quite nice. And of course, the warmer the water you use, the more activity you can get, the more it will wash out the gelatin. And if you're trying to wash it out completely, you just put hot water in there and let it soak for a few minutes. Well, live's still working here. It's starting to wash out more and more. You can see near the edges here. I don't know if you can tell, but it's a little more brownish yellow, and this red is starting to come out of there. The more intense red is starting to come out. Oh, yeah, I think it's going to work well. I've been doing a few of them like this. I was, for a while there, I was using a more of a bluish and indigo kind of a thing in the shadow areas, but it was looking a little too cool for me, so I shifted it over to this this pigment, and it's really done some nice things. Try to get it. I like to leave it face down because the pigment then will fall out into the tray rather than pooling up and perhaps staining the paper more. So let's turn you over here and see if there's anybody online. Yeah, there's a few people. Hey Barry, how you doing? Yeah, as far as pre-shrinking the paper, Barry, yeah, I didn't explain that part of it, but that's a good question. A lot of times what I'll do when I'm doing this process is you pre-shrink the paper ahead of time, because if you're doing a re-registration, if you've made the original print, and sometimes you wash that out and then you dry it, that paper shrinks a little bit, so that when you try to re-register the negative, it doesn't quite work so well. So I pre-shrink the paper by putting it in hot water. You just soak it in warm water for a little while. Not too hot, but you want it in a warm water for a bit of time, and that helps to shrink the paper. And then once you've dried that paper, the paper is kind of shrunk to begin with. Now, one of the things though is that this paper that I'm using is called Hahnemühle Platinum Rag, and the platinum rag has been remarkable as far as its shrinkage. It doesn't shrink a whole lot. I mean, one of the papers that I used to like to use a lot for this process is Fabriano Artistico. And the Fabriano shrinks quite a bit, so you definitely want to pre-shrink that paper. And that paper you also have to pre-treat with oxalic acid as well before you print your initial layer of palladium on there, because you want the paper more acidic. It's one of those papers that's got a lot of buffer in it. So basically you kill two birds with one stone when you're doing that, because you just do your treatment with warm water and then you pre-shrink the paper and everything at one time. But with the Hahnemühle, you don't have to pre-treat it because it's acidic enough already. It's made specifically for the process. And one of the other great things about it is it's quite, it doesn't seem to be, need as much pre-shrinking. Now, of course, I work with smaller prints a lot, and It's less important on a smaller print. If you're working on really big prints, you would probably definitely want to pre-shrink your paper. But I know that Bob Carney in Toronto, I was there a couple of months ago visiting with him while he was printing, well, actually Michelle Heisman was printing her own show there under his tutelage. And they were using big 20 by 24 sheets, and they weren't pre-shrinking, and they were doing a lot of layers over, and they weren't having any problems at all. So, yeah, Barry, I definitely pre-shrink, especially if you're making big prints and you're working with a paper that's known to do that with. And another one I like to print with quite often is called Reeves BFK, and Reeves also needs to be pre-shrunk. The thing about Reeves too is that Reeves can be kind of a moving target. That paper changes fairly often, and you get a different batch that's just kind of different than the whole batch you have. And it's really nice to have a consistent paper to work with, because, you know, people like us that print a lot, you know, you're going through a lot of batches of paper, and, you know, with some of them like Fabriano or, you know, even some of the Cott papers and some of the you know, the Platines and stuff, you would look at the, once you got working with a good base of paper, you would either buy a lot of it out of one run, or you would look at the serial number on it just to make sure that you were getting the same batch number, because very often they would change a batch and it would shift over. But anyway, that aside, let's, I'm noticing some things on my camera here. I don't know what's happening. Sorry for looking up so close. Still says we're live, still says we're good. We had one cutoff, let's see. Yeah, so to answer your question, Barry, yes, I do, and thanks for asking. I'm going to start doing more of these, I think. You know, I mean, I know I'm doing the weekly live thing. I'd like you all to keep remembering that if you can. Set your clocks and think of some questions, some things that, you know, you can interact with. But I'm going to be continuing to do those on Sunday afternoons at 1 o'clock p.m. My Eastern time, which is now Eastern Daylight Time. But, you know, for those of you that are on board now that didn't see before, I used to have a live darkroom cam that I ran back in the late 90s at 2 of my old darkrooms, and I was kind of resurrecting it now because this is sort of the perfect thing. I've got this, you know, I've got this fast pipe in here on my fiber optic. So, and trying to figure out why this thing keeps cutting off during my live show. So I just thought I'd do the live darkroom cam thing again. So I'm not doing anything special, just hanging out with you guys and seeing who's online. Okay, so let's check on this print here. Turn you around. And yeah, see, now you're starting to see it come out of more of the areas where I want it to come out of. Let me show you here. You can see how some of the place up in here, there's still the color and stuff, but it's washing out nicely, but it's staying in the shadow areas. You know, if you can tell, it's got that nice kind of warmth to it. So, happening just like I had hoped. It's going to need a little bit more time. Sometimes based on the pigments that you're using and based upon the you know, the pigments, the paper, sizing, all that kind of thing, it can be a real short exposure. I mean a real short development time, or it can be a longer one. Normally on these second layers of gum, I take a little bit longer time because I'm trying to really wash the pigment out of areas where it isn't hardened correctly and where it isn't supposed to be. As I was mentioning, you know, I want it to go into the shadow details. Look at that, a small insect flying around. That's something for this time of year. It's snowing outside again. You know, we've got another 2 to 5 inches supposed to happen today, and, you know, it's just relentless. What is it, March 14th today? I'm getting ready to get on a plane someplace if it doesn't end soon. It'll get there though. So anyway, I'm going to wait a couple more minutes while I've got this one going here. Let's see, I've got my size print, which is actually ready for coating now. So as long as I've got you live, I might as well go with it. And I'll do the masking on this. I'm not going to use the same color, so what I'm going to do is go wash this out over here. Let's see, just so I'm not rude, and I'll take this over here and slide the print down. I could use a bigger sink always. This studio, I designed it, there's supposed to be a sink in the middle as well. I just never got to it, and once I started running workshops in here, it was nice to have the extra space, so we kind of toughed it out with just the one sink. Another thing is that when I have most of the workshops in the summertime, and there's a nice big covered porch out here, and we tend to do a lot of the final washing outside just to kind of clear things out of the darkroom and give people a chance to get out and rotate through and get some air. So what I do is I take this nice on the back here, I got my backsplash, and I like to roll them out to help clean them. Get some stains from long ago on them that just doesn't come out. But that's okay. Take that off of the side. Rinse on the other one. Still with me? Yep. There we go. Get my plexi done. Try to get in there. Get some warmer water in. All right. Take you back around this way. I get these all dried off ahead of time, you know, just to keep everything rolling good. You know, once you get a good workflow going, and you know, you can go through a lot of printing in one day by just working out, you know, your workflow in it. So, got this dry, ready to go. Everything's all set. I'm just checking on the print here. Yeah, it's looking good. There we go. Looking like I want it to look. All right, let's show you this. There's still a little bit to wash out, but here we go. Print's looking really sweet now. You can see a lot of that red is gone. There's still a little bit left over here that's going to get washed out, but now it's just got this nice kind of yellowish in the highlights and this nice warmth in the shadows. So let me put this back over here. We'll let it soak a little bit more. And that's kind of it for that print. Let's get this one done over here. I don't know, what can you see here? I'm going to go over here. We're going to mask off this other print. Sorry, Curtis, I got to step here. Don't be grumpy. Now this little print that I'm working on here was one from Venice that I knew it was going to be a nice image, but I didn't think it was going to print like this. It's just really a beautiful one, and I'm, if I do say so myself, and it's one of my new favorite prints. And I think what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to turn it into one of my print offers and maybe make it as an optional print that people could get as a guide print when they're doing their own gum over platinums, kind of like I do with the negative and the print from the negative that I sell for, from the digital negative series. Sorry, Curtis. He's always having to move. So gotcha. All right, this one's ready to go. Get this here, take my now clean piece of acrylic down, and this time I'm going to get a different film container to mix my pigment in, because this one still is ready to go with the warmth. Now on this one, I'm just going to go with kind of my standard. I use a French ochre very often in my highlights. So I'm just going to go with this one, because that will go into the highlights of this image, and also there's a bit where there was some smog in the alley where the light was coming through, and it'll get picked up in there quite nicely as well and accentuate that. So let's go with a little bit of the ochre pigment, an equal amount of the dichromate solution, mix that up, and I'm going to grab my rollers, which are ready to go again. You can see one's darker, one's lighter. That's my cleanup roller, and that's my application roller. So then I take and pour the pigment out on the acrylic, roll it onto the print with the roller, and there we go. Beautiful. Yeah, this is exactly. Now with this print, which is, it benefits from its darkness, but there's some detail in the shadows that you really want to be seen. And this color really helps quite well in bringing up that detail. It doesn't really matter looking at it with the dichromate in it, because the dichromate's obviously going to be much more colorful than the final pigment. But all right, well, let's clean this up here. Get the masking tape off. And there we go. Nice clean edge to work with. Put this on the table here on the drying rack. Now, while that's happening, I can always go back to this print that I told you I had worked on. I'm going to make the exposure of that while that's happening there. I'll get this original negative here. I've got to dig it up out of my past negatives though, so bear with me here for a second. So you can see I got a lot of stuff I'm working on here. And unlike film negatives, I always feel like I can remake a digital negative, and I don't feel so compelled to keep them in sleeves or keep them super safe or anything like that. There's my negative. There we go. So here's the negative from that image. Turn on the light table. And re-register. Oh, that was easy. Perfect. Still got you live. Good. All right, now back into I'll take out the waterfall, put in the new one. Set the springs. Ready to go. Now on this one again, I'm going to do it even less time than I did the last one. I'm going to do 4 minutes on this one. Yeah. And that'll be, a little less exposure. I won't have to develop it as long as I have on this one. Let's go back over to this print and see how it's doing. Yeah, it's looking good. A little bit of red washed out of there nicely. And you can see the color in the shadow details. It's really, 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 I really like this. Happy, happy. Once again, I take out a brush. I'll brush some of the areas that, yeah. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is take this print and just rinse it like this one final time, just to make sure that I've got any stuff that was in the tray off there. But that's that. It's because I say, even if I do say so myself, it's just something about this gum over process that really livens up a palladium print, you know. I know it's bad to say, but palladium prints to me just don't look finished anymore, and it's just the way it goes. So there you go. I'm going to hang this up and turn around here. Let's take you with. There we go. Let me get this up on the line here. Now some of these after you've, I've developed this quite a long time and there's not a lot of pigment still coming out of it, but when you hang them up to dry, sometimes you have to babysit these because, you know, you'll get a little bit of pigment that'll run off the paper there. And so what I like to do is take a piece of paper towel and just kind of dab the borders until most of the liquid is run off. You can see when that happens, you know, the print starts to dry and then you're not going to get anything more running off the surface. So yeah, so there's that one. Now I am not going to do, let's see, the one that we just coated that I want to get to isn't quite dry yet. So I'm just going to let this one go through for now and we'll work on that one. And oh, it looks like more people have chimed in here. Let's see. Hi Terry, yes, I'm just trying to work on my negatives, just starting the darkroom again after a decade absence. Yeah, well, for fiber prints, if you're talking about doing it on silver paper, like silver chloride paper, and making the digital negatives, that's kind of a little different animal. And you'll have to, you know, just do a little reading on it. I'm not real proficient in that part of it yet. I'd like to do that. And as a matter of fact, somebody made a suggestion that I do. But, you know, you use a little different substrate. Like on this stuff, I'm using a clear OHP. And for doing silver chloride paper, there's a white version of this paper that people use. And I think it helps disperse the light a little bit more and helps with any artifacts, digital artifacts that might be seen in the image. But I don't know, I've seen some contact prints done on silver paper, silver fiber paper, done from digital negatives that are just spectacular. So, you know, keep up and let me know what's going on with that, Terry. But this is the perfect process to use for other things, like you're talking about doing salt and cyanotypes. I've been doing salted, I've got a curve built for salt prints that I've been doing quite nicely. I don't have one of those prints around here right now. I'd show you, but it works really nice. You know, you can bend the curve for each one, you know, if you get better with the digital negatives. Yeah, so that works really well. Let's see. Salt cyanotypes prints, I used a brush and was okay with the brush edges, but ended up losing the rough edges through matting anyway. Yeah, well, you know, and that's not, you know, talking about the rough edges, I got nothing against them. In fact, you know, when I'm doing cyanotypes, I don't try to get too persnickety about the edges or anything like that, but you do. When you put a mat on it, it goes away. So it's the same thing with me, like what's the difference? But I just like doing it. It's more of a challenge. I'm kind of like, I like to do a clean print like that. You know, yeah, once you put a mat on, it doesn't matter anyway, right? So yeah, you're right. And actually, my thing is that my brush, when I'm putting on the palladium, my style isn't so great, you know. Other people do it and they have these nice, beautiful brushed edges, and mine just look like blah, 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 blah. And it never made me very happy, so I didn't deal with it very much. Something else I was going to say there, though, that you reminded me of, oh, I can't think of what it was right now. Let me read again, see what you said. Yeah, losing the rough edges with matting, you know. Some people will mat that whole print showing the edges, and that's great for people that got really nice, you know. I've seen people that, you know, I can't think of the printer's name, but he did nudes, and I think he was from Chicago area, and he just had the most beautiful technique in laying his brushwork down. Now, the other thing I was going to say, though, is that nowadays I like to mask it because I'm cheap, and, you know, palladium's really expensive right now, and probably will continue to be. So in masking the edges like this, it keeps me contained, and it keeps my drops of solution contained, and it keeps me contained within those borders more often than it did when I was brushing elsewhere. So what I'm ending up doing is, you know, you figure you probably got $4 or $5 worth of palladium in that brushed edge that you're working on nowadays, and I try to avoid that just because, like I say, I'm frugal about this stuff. Thanks for chiming in. Let's see, what's the maximum number of coatings you do on a sheet, Bill? Well, you know, it depends. Like a lot of certain prints, I can get away with just doing one coat. You know, I'll just do one coat. In fact, this one that I'm working on from Venice right now, I've done a larger print of it that I can walk out and show you in a minute, but I really liked it with just the one coating on it. But then again, I ended up taking this reddish brown that I'm working with right now, and I put it on there and put it into the shadows, and it actually made it look so much better. But what I'll do is I'll usually only do two colors for my highlights and for my shadows, but I will build them up. That's the thing, is that you can do another coating and another coating. So sometimes I've done up to 6, 7 coatings. You know, and as you build them up, it gets pretty interesting. You know, here's a print here that's got a couple of coatings as well. As you build up the gum, you get more relief on the paper as well, and you can start to see where the gum is laying heavier than elsewhere. And so when you're, you know, for you, those of you that are print sniffers, like I mean, I really like to look at a print, see how it's made, and I really like to see that relief. So the more layers you build up, the more of that relief you get, and also the more color you get in there. Like, as I've explained before, when I'm making a gum over platinum image, I'm not trying to recreate a color image. I'm basically trying to tone that platinum image, much like you would tone a silver print with selenium or with sepia, or toning a salt print with gold, or, you know, anything like that. You're giving a little bit of an extra kick to the image that you've made already. And with the platinum and palladium, it tends to be an acquired taste anyway, right? Because there's not any really blacks, and there's not, you know, I mean, you know, it's just a very nice creamy, and it's an acquired taste is what I'm saying. The gum over platinum helps you, you know, bring a little bit more punch into those images too, you know, and it makes it a little bit less of an acquired taste, and it makes that image look like a really nice, just a really nice rich image is the way the only way I can really describe it. Let's see, okay, this exposure is done over here. Let me go grab that. So this again is the pilot whales beached, and I'm gonna see how this one works with this color. And I love the photograph, but for some reason I just haven't been able to get the toning right on it. So there you go, I've got that right here. Let me turn this around to the sink so you can kind of see what's going over on this end. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it in my first bath here, which I'm just basically using to get the dichromate out. Now I exposed this one a little less time on this one than I did the previous one, so I'm hoping that I don't have to develop as long on this one. Yeah, the dichromate's coming out nice. I can see it pooling up. So I'm going to leave that for a second. Where else am I? This image here. Let's see. Yeah, I'm almost to the point where this one's ready to go. So when this one's done, we'll be ready to go on this one. And that'll be probably the last one I do today with you, if the live feed keeps up that long. All right, this is looking good. I think most of the dichromate has rinsed out. Yeah, I'm still losing some pigment there, which is good. The pigment, just like I said, just like I'd hoped, see the pigment, if you can see that, the pigment's washing out a little bit faster in this one. But you can see in the whale here and in the rocks in the foreground, that color is staying, which is exactly what I wanted. Yeah, this might help this print quite a bit. Yeah, because it's going to put a little bit of that in the sky there. There was a little bit of darkness up near the top of the sky and in the storm clouds that were out there. It's going to pick up a little bit of that red in there as well. Oh yeah, ooh, I'm liking this. The separation is really nice on this one. Before I think it was I was using the blue in the shadows in this one, and it just didn't seem right. It seemed a little too cold for the image. And I don't know if you can see now, but that red is looking really nice. You can see it kind of haloing up here along the storm line. Yeah. Okay, success with that. I'm going to leave that there right now. What I'm going to do is turn the camera around here. And I am going to take this one that we just made. It's ready to be married with its negative again. And that negative was over here. I was making that print in this print holder, print frame, and I'm kind of superstitious, so I'm gonna make it continually in this one. So there we go. Here's that negative. I'm gonna re-register that. This one, there's a lot of detail in this image, so it's a real easy one to register. There we go, a little tape on the edge there. Now, another thing that happened when I was coating this is I spilled a little bit of my coating over the edge there, the gum bichromate. Now, if I was to expose this print right now, that would expose in there and I would have a hard time getting that out of my border. So what I'm gonna do, it's a little trick that I do, is I'm gonna take another piece of ruby lith and I'm going to put it across there. Now let me dig out a, let me see, let me just go get another, I'm gonna cut a sheet. So patience with me a second. I'm gonna go cut a sheet of ruby lith. You can probably still hear me. Dog doesn't like it when I leave him in the dark room. So I'm out here in my work area and I am cutting a strip of ruby lith to put across there to mask out that area where I brushed over. So yeah, I always come back, right? All right, so here you can see, cut myself another strip of ruby lith. I'm going to put that over where I overbrushed and just add a little piece of tape there. And you see now that area is covered up, so it's not going to receive any light, and therefore it won't harden and it will wash out in the final development. And it'll leave me with a clean border. All right, so there. Got it set. I'm going in here now, and I'm just going to be doing, again, that first one was for 9 minutes. I'm going to do a 5-minute exposure on this second layer. And that's in there for 5 minutes. So let's see if we got any more. Hi, Michael. Yeah, okay, so Michael's asking, with the cost of platinum and your experience with dichromates, have you ever considered doing carbon printing? Yeah, as a matter of fact, I have done carbon printing in the past. One of the really early workshops I had up here was Sandy King. Sandy's an old friend, and Sandy came up here and taught carbon printing, and any of you that you know, Sandy's a real, real proponent of carbon printing, and probably one of the better people I know. There's another guy out there, Jim Fitzgerald, that I know of, and of course, I think Matt Marash is working on carbon printing now. Forgive me for anybody else I'm not mentioning, but yeah, I have thought of that as a base, and I've been working on other things as well, with that being so expensive. I've been working with, I've been doing a little bit with Van Dyke Brown, which has been a little bit different. You know, the problem with this is I've been printing with palladium for so long that I'm really proficient with it, and you know, it's like second nature. So working with these other ones tends to be a real challenge again. And Van Dyke Brown is one that I've been working on, is using as a base for the gum over palladiums, a more inexpensive one. Salt printing, I've been working with salt as well. I love working with salt printing, but I'm having problems with both of them because what happens with those processes, any of you that you know them, that once you re-wet that paper, it tends to change the print. The print gets lighter again, and then it needs to dry back down. Sometimes it doesn't dry back down the same. And then when you're doing the gum over process, you're resizing that paper, right? So when you're resizing that paper and you end up getting the paper wet again when you're resizing, and that changes the exposure, and it's just been a real problem for me. I haven't been able to wrangle it into perfection yet, so I'm still working on that. Carbon, though, is a real great idea, and I've thought about going back to that as well. Because this would really, you know, carbon printing would also really benefit from this. Although carbon printing is one of those things where it's just really beautiful in its own right. And, you know, speaking of relief and things, you know, if you've seen them, you see that relief in the carbon prints as well. So it's a great question, and a good, you know, I mean, if palladium goes up to $4,000, $5,000 an ounce, you know, that maybe have to be the way to go, you know. I've got right now a storage of palladium that I bought a long time ago, so I have enough to keep me going for the next couple of years. But you know, who knows what's going to happen, especially now with Russia. I mean, Russia was one of our biggest producers of palladium, so, you know, we'll see what happens. Let's see, Terry. Oh, has he? Okay, I'll have to check that out. Bonnet Peterlin has been doing carbon prints on his channel. I'll have to check that out. Thanks, that's good. Cool. Yeah, I figure that, you know, the more of us out there trying these things and doing more things, the better off it's going to be. Of course, it's not going to bring down the price of palladium any. Let's turn this around here and let's see where I got my print going here now. Yeah, that's nice. Kind of washed out the rest of the pigment out of the highlight areas, and I really like the way it's working here. Now you can see how a lot of that highlight is now gone back to the original color, and now there's just a hint of the warmth down here in the shadows. So I'm going to rinse that and let it dry. Ooh, shoot. Rinse it again. Gonna let this one dry, and I'll see where that is afterward. Oh yeah, this waterfall image is really drying up nice now. And you can see on this that I was talking about babysitting the print and having some pigment running off. It hasn't happened on this, so I had actually developed this quite nicely, and a lot of that original, the pigment had come out of it. So that's that one. Let's set that down there. Turn you back around. Yeah, that looks good. I'll be happy to send that to somebody at some point. Okay, now this one is 15 seconds left over here, and I'll pull that out and develop it. And I think that may be where I leave you today. Who knows, I might start this up, I might start this up again tomorrow when I'm printing. I usually do this every day. This is Jerry Bazerby, friend of mine who also participates sometime. I don't think he knows I'm live right now. He took one of my workshops up here back in October or November and is actually starting the process at home now and doing quite well with it. So a lot of times people will take the workshop and, you know, they're not really ready to get back into it when they get back home, so it's a little less fresh in their mind. And, you know, fortunately with him, he just kind of went at it right away. But it's still, you know, what I do with people that I teach, so I'm usually pretty available for, you know, a little tweaking along the way and helping you out for the things that you forgot. Okay, so this one is all done. I'm gonna pull it out and get it over in here into my bath. There we go. The first one, wash out that nasty dichromate. I'm going to change this water because I can still see some of my warm pigment in there. Oh yeah, man, I can tell already in this print it's really looking nice. Yeah, I'm thinking that this is going to be my next print that I put out there as an offer. And I'll leave it with the this upcoming gum by chrome or gum over platinum one. I was gonna, you know, offer one of the prints as a guide print for you, but, you know, I think I'm gonna offer a choice of the two different ones, and I'll incorporate this one in that video as well. And I really am working on that again now. I started doing the editing of all the first parts of it, so it's gonna be out there soon. And you won't have to suffer through me doing this live. Look at that. Woo! It's looking good already. Let's bring that up to you. You can see that nice tonality in there, the nice color. It's good. I'm going to drop that over here into the second one. Now, just to kind of show you, I mean, a little difference. This is one of those prints done without a coating, and this one now done with the second coating. Now, I don't know if you can see the difference in the two of them. but it's quite a bit. I mean, it adds a little bit of detail into this darker area, into the you add some highlight in there. It's really quite beautiful. All right, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna let this one. This was just a short exposure in there, so I'm gonna leave this like that. I want it to stay up in those highlights like that. So as you can see, this one was a lot shorter of a development time than the other one. And that was based on the pigment. That's much more of a staining pigment than the other one, that reddish one. And oh man, I don't know if you can tell, but I just love it. All right, well, let me put this over here. Turn the camera back around. I'll get this over here and hang it up. Oh, good. And this one's good too, so yeah, perfect. All right, I'm happy. Let's see. Hi Terry. Barry, just bought a book from the Japanese photographer. He makes his prints in the handmade kozo papers. Oh yeah, kozo. That's a difficult one. I'll probably get to something like that in the future with one of these videos as well. The different handmade and the kozo papers, they're really delicate, but they can be really beautiful in your printing. You know, and I advise trying all different kinds of paper too. You know, I mean, sometimes you'll even see that textured stuff that's there. Not textured, it has bits and pieces of, you know, plants and things in it, and some of that can be really interesting if you put an image over it, depending on what you're into. You know. Oh, let's see. Cool. Hey, Len, how you doing? That's my friend Len. I've known him longer than I've known anybody in this planet. Anybody in your life that you don't know, that you can't remember not knowing, like your mom and your dad? That's how Len is to me. Thanks for checking out, buddy. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm really glad that you liked that print. Tara, let me show you the one that I did a little bit earlier here too. It's the one that we did just prior to that, if you haven't seen it. In this one, I had added a second layer of warmth into the shadow details in there. So yeah, I had two good ones today, which sometimes is all you can ask for, you know. So anyway, this has been cool. I really appreciate you all hanging out with me, and I'll do this again. You know, like I say, back in the day, I used to have this darkroom cam, and it was basically, it started off as one that dialed in every 10 minutes and put up a picture up there, so you could check it every 10 minutes and see what I might have passed by the camera or something. And then later on, I did a live stream version of it in a real low resolution. But you know, now we've got this. I can go HD, and you know, gets kind of, you know, a little lonely in the darkroom sometimes, so it's kind of fun to know that you're all out there. But I really appreciate you watching today. I'm going to get cleaned up, and I didn't lose the stream after the second try, so I don't know. We're going to have to figure that out still. And with that, I'm just going to bid you a goodbye. Get cleaned up and go get something to eat. Time is it here? Oh yeah, it's getting on time. So thanks a lot again for watching. Give on a thumbs up. I'm going to leave this out there as a live, you know, video. It's going to be on the website, on the YouTube channel forever. So unless I find something in it pretty embarrassing, but again, thanks for being here, and check it out. I'm probably going to do this at any given time, so if you have subscribed to me, subscribe below, and then hit that little bell, and that little bell will notify you when I do stuff, and it should give you a notification of when I go live again. So anyway, oh, and I'm just about out of battery, so see you later, guys. Take care. I really appreciate it. Bye-bye. Yeah, I love you too, Len. Thanks for watching. And I'm glad you know, Lenny's been around for a lot of stuff, let me tell you. All right, take care, you guys, everybody. Bye-bye. Thanks very much.